Hello and welcome to TelecomTV. We are at the Internet of Retail event in a place called Gerrards Cross, which is north of London in the stockbroker belt. And I'm talking with Annabelle Kilner, who is Commercial Director at Made.com. Annabelle, welcome. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you, Martin.
Made.com is about furniture, is it not?
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell us briefly about what Made.com does before we talk about anything else.
So Made.com is 5 years old. We're a very exciting business, and from a consumer's point of view, I think what is so compelling about our business model is that we make really fantastic design furniture affordable. And that's primarily because we have a very lean business model. So as best as possible, we strip out all of the middlemen in the furniture sector, of which there are quite a few.
Sure are.
And we also collaborate with designers. We also have a big in-house design team that creates original pieces. And we manufacture essentially on demand, so that there's no over-ordering. And then we ship direct from the manufacturer to the consumer's home, so that the stages in between that other traditional retailers have, like big warehouses, probably very expensive retail stores on the high street, Made.com don't have those.
Thank you. Now we're going to talk about the Internet of Things, basically, Internet of Retail, which is basically about the Internet of Things. What is IoT, the Internet of Things, and what impact it is having on the retail industry right now? Talk about it from your own perspective and your own experience.
So I find it difficult to really assess the impact of the Internet on Things on our business in particular, because we're a pure play company. So we've only ever come from being about engaging consumers on the Internet. And for me, I think what is exciting about the Internet of Things is that the impact it can have is it is essentially about all of us that are working in this space collecting data and making it more relevant for the consumer. So I think that's where the trend of Internet Things can impact our business. But essentially, as a pure play furniture retailer,
Right.
We've embraced that culture right from the start of the company.
So you're from and are purely an internet company, which
Yes.
makes perfect sense, but within the terms of that, what you want to know from your customers, of course, like any organisation would like to know, as much information about them as you can possibly get within boundaries of security and privacy and all the rest of it. And of course, that's a two-way street. So my next question to you is, in terms of strategizing the way you do things, it's fairly evident what you get from it in terms of being able to slice and dice the information you get from the consumer. What does a customer get?
Well, I think, as I mentioned before, I think what the customer gets is relevance and choice, perhaps. So what data enables us to do is obviously understand a little bit more about the customer journey. In an ideal world, we'd know exactly when someone had moved home, whether that home was going to be unfurnished, what kind of furniture they had, so that we could sell them exactly the kind of right furniture with the style that they loved. We're not at that stage yet, but that is obviously the ambition to get to that. But I think there are small steps in the journey where at least we can provide much more relevant choices to the customer. And ultimately, I believe that customers have so much choices today, and they're not particularly brand loyal, that the easier you can make that journey, the better. So data enables us to do that.
Okay. Now, you have logistics, and as far as you haven't got any warehouses, you haven't got any shops and that kind of stuff, but the stuff that you order, the furniture you order on behalf of customers, comes from various places.
Yes.
And you're not just a UK business, are you? You're all over Europe.
Yeah, we
So
are.
when that happens, you will have manufacturers in various parts of the world who are sending furniture, receiving the orders and so on. That presumably then becomes part of the Internet of Retail as far as you're
Yeah.
concerned, because you want to know, and your customer wants to know, where's my furniture, how far is along it, the manufacturing process is it, am I going to get it on time, where is it?
Yes.
So you're involved in that kind of thing as well?
You're exactly right. So we have manufacturers all over the world. So they're from China, Vietnam, India, UK, Eastern Europe, and we basically send products that have been ordered by the customer to 2 distribution centres. They've typically been sold before they arrive at the distribution centre, and then they're shipped out to the customer by our, again, bigger network of carriers. So you're absolutely right. From a customer point of view, they need to understand when the product's being made, to when it's being shipped, to when it's arriving in the distribution centre, and we make sure that we have a kind of email chain that connects the customer to that. And that is triggered at different points when really it has been made, it's been quality checked, it's been put on the ship, it's been arriving in the UK. That process at the moment does go very well, but I'm sure that there is much more connectivity that can enhance that in terms of tracking, because the period of time that takes can actually be up to about 12 weeks.
So as Made.com grows and gets bigger, so on, there's going to be hopefully more and more work for you. That will involve more process, will it not?
Yes.
And you have to account for that by having a strategy for the business to encompass that. How do you decide on the strategy you're going to take in as far as the development of the business and the technology which supports that underneath?
I think there's two things. I think one thing I love about this sector is that because you are the consumer yourself often, and I definitely am a Made.com customer, a lot of the time it's using just intuition and instinct about what is right to prioritize for the customer. So I'd say that is a massive part of the strategy. And secondly, it is also about the market opportunities. So could we do a better job at the supply chain side, at the logistics when it arrives in the UK, about getting that to the carrier? Absolutely. But is there the right solution for us at the moment to know exactly when it is most convenient for a parcel to be dropped off at the customer, but still very cost efficient for the carrier to be able to meet that particular time slot? You know, that technology isn't really there, and actually the way that a lot of the carriers work, whilst they are enhancing the service all the time, it still is a really cumbersome process, I think, for the consumer. And so there's things like that we need to solve, but the market isn't quite right there.
Which is by definition the Internet of Things.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
All of the technology is involved in it.
Yeah.
Which of course is getting better all the time.
Absolutely.
Because it's not as new as some people think it is, but it's a moderately new phenomenon, and it's growing across all sorts of different vertical markets. So retail is one, plastics, health, the whole lot. So it's happening everywhere simultaneously. And we talk very much in this trade and in technology about ecosystems.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do as well. What to you does the Internet of Retail ecosystem look like? What does it consist of?
Well, from our business model, it is really understanding everything from actually the first consumer touch point. So how does a consumer hear about us? So what are all the different marketing channels? And for us to understand that it's relatively complex because one, we don't have a sign-on on the website at the moment, so being able to track customers is a little bit harder than other sites that do. We also have a very long purchasing cycle, so there will be multiple touch points before a customer actually makes a purchase. So that is one part of the ecosystem, but then as we've discussed already, there is the whole ordering side from the customer's point of view about the lead times and how long that will take. And then there's also, from our point of view, from designing a product to working with the manufacturer to create the prototype, to getting that sample, to signing that sample off, to then ordering and doing a hybrid model of forecasting and reordering those products. There's another whole plethora of data there. So I'd say that the ecosystem it's all encompassing from every single touch point, from how a product gets made to eventually how a customer hears about it to how it gets delivered to the customer's door. Connecting all of those dots is
quite a lot.
Yes.
Let's talk about briefly then, Annabelle, if we could, about the technology. As you at Made.com, where do you get your technology from? By this I'm asking you, do you go to a traditional service provider for part of what you require, to the likes of Vodafone or BT or whatever it might be, France Telecom or Deutsche Telekom, whatever it might be? Do you go to them, or do you actually buy or lease package solutions which are available sort of off the shelf from systems integrators? Or do you go to retail sector specific vendors that can provide tailor-made precisely what you want?
Well, Made.com's business model is all about cutting out the middleman where possible. So we do have teams in-house that build a lot of the technology platform themselves. But obviously we're very keen, as someone that's being disruptive in the furniture space, to also be best in class. So where possible, we do use software as a service from other providers. And if I'm honest, they tend to be relatively new startups in that particular space, because they probably work in a more similar way to how we work. And I think ultimately software as a service is very important on actually what the product can do in the service, but also the relationship with that team in making sure that you use it in the right way, that you're getting the most out of it, is really vital, because often you can take on services and not really make the most of them. So I think where possible we try and use really kind of early entrance into the kind of market.
But you partner, you have partners without the business, as it were, who provide these services to you, and you collaborate with them on an ongoing basis.
Yes, we do.
Okay. A final question to you then, and this is because my background is telecommunications as much as anything else. The traditional network operators that we all know, Deutsche Telekom, France Telecom, British Telecom, you name it, those sort of communication carriers are between a rock and a hard place very often these days. They have huge networks, most of which are incredibly sophisticated. There's a lot of bandwidth there, a lot of connectivity, and they have considerable expertise and experience in IoT in their own right. Do you think that will ever be of any particular potential benefit to you at Made.com, or do you think it's something that is not really relevant to what you do?
Well, I think where it's relevant is ultimately we want homes to be as connected as possible to the internet, and for it to be a seamless experience to be able to buy on your device, at your home, or whatever it might be. So I think, the more that they can empower an individual to be online, the better it is for businesses like ours. So I think they have a huge role to play. I think the sector is very confusing. I just went to upgrade my mobile recently, and trying to understand the differences between what they can all offer and the different price points is a very confusing market, and how they interact with corporate warehouse.
You're not the first person to have said that.
So I think there's something to improve there, but no, I think they've got an incredibly powerful future.
Excellent. Annabelle Kinler, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Very interesting stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.